And it's a Friday night this week for your Miami Hurricanes talk right here on Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please lock it in if you love the game that we love 24/7, 365. And, of course, the best way to talk Miami football is to bring in Cam Underwood from State of the U. Cam, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. Just hanging out. Had a little random adventure just right now. Long story short, people don't know how to follow directions, and I ordered food to the house because I was like, oh, I'm going to do this. I just whatever, and had to go around my neighborhood to go and try to find my Uber Eats order because people don't know how to tell numbers and whatever. But it is what it is. But either way, here and hang out and have some fun. Wearing orange and green like usual. So yeah, let's go.
I made the 8 or 9 hour drive with my kids today, back from Ohio, and in just 2 stops, various service people did not know how to follow directions. Absolutely. and at my mom's, and working out a cable bundling phone internet issue. People don't know how to follow directions.
Yeah, I mean, directions apparently are hard for some people, but you guys are here watching, which is following a minor direction. So we appreciate that, and we're going to have a good time.
Absolutely. And as has been the case for the past several weeks, you'll just have to stay on your toes, as Kim alludes to, with our changing schedules week to week, as we give you Miami Hurricanes talk each and every week, and do our best to try to find a time that Kim and I can get together and then notify you. Otherwise, check out State of the U on a regular basis for your Miami sports coverage. RHETT LASHLEE is the new offensive coordinator, as announced just a couple of days ago. And based on his track record, his work, and the initial reaction from you.
Feel good about it. RHETT LASHLEE is a guy who was at, Auburn for some years with Gus Malzahn. He was most recently at SMU. Before that, he was at UConn and had them with their best offense in a long time. And, I mean, UConn has a deficit of talent. So, I mean, if you look at the advanced stats, it's like, oh, they were 107th in offense. They were 130th the year before in SP+. So baby steps. And again, that's a team that did not have amazing talent. But yeah, he's coming off of SMU with Shane Buechele and whatnot. He's coming over here. And finally, I believe from everywhere that he's been, that Miami's going to finally run pace and space, an up-tempo spread kind of offense. If you look back when he was at Auburn, RHETT LASHLEE, that is, you can see a run-heavy kind of scheme to support what Gus Malzahn wanted to do. I believe he was an assistant or a position coach when Cam Newton was putting up the second greatest college football season in the last 40 years in 2010. He was also there with Nick Marshall in 2013, coordinating that offense. And then, like I said, this past season with SMU, which if you go back and watch and read about it, was a pretty dynamic offense. So, the first thing is going to be tempo. Miami's going to run more plays. My boy Roman, who does videos and has his own podcast and writes for a competing website that I won't mention, he charted he did videos for one of the games that SMU played. And he was like, yo, I'm at the end of the first half, and I did 62 plays because they ran 62 plays of offense. Miami averaged 64 for a game this year. I mean, so you're finally going to get tempo. You're going to get touchdowns by alignment. And that's something you've seen with spread teams, whether it's Oregon, whether it's Baylor, whether it's Washington State, SMU, Auburn, LSU this year. I mean, many teams go spread, and just by simple alignment, you get a touchdown. If you think back to 2013, I believe it was Miami FSU. Miami got a touchdown by alignment. They came out with a heavy set, a back, two backs, a tight end, and 2 receivers, like it's going to be I formation. They came out with that personnel, went 5 wide, Clive Walford up the middle or up the seam on a linebacker who couldn't run with them 61 yards. You had a touchdown by alignment there. You can have that kind of a thing again. And, on my other podcast that I host daily during the season, but twice a week in the offseason, Locked On Canes with my boy Fred Perdue, we had a guy on today who specializes in running and coaching a spread scheme. And he said, look, if you listen to Mike Leach, Mississippi State's new coach, Mike Leach, The goal is to make the defense defend 53 1/3 yards wide, so from sideline to sideline, and 35 yards deep. And in that box, everything is live. The ball can go anywhere in there. And the thing that he said, Coach Mackey is his name. Look him up on YouTube, McKie. You throw it short and let a guy run long, but you have space for them to do that. Think DeAnthony Thomas at Oregon. He wasn't going by everybody and then just like Tyreek Hill throwing it over the top. Tyreek Hill doesn't even really go by everybody like that. You throw it short, give him space, and let the speed do the work. And Miami has that kind of talent to be able to do that. The other interesting thing from the conversation with Coach Mackey today on my other podcast, Locked on Canes, and you should get that anywhere that you find podcasts for free, is that in the air raid offense, in the scheme of Sonny Dykes, you install the entire offense in 3 days. And then you just rep those 3 days of install over and over and over, and you change the scenarios that you're going against so that if you're seeing you're running a play that you install on the second day and you see that versus 2 high, the first install, that you see it versus 1 high, that you see it during blitz, you see it during whatever, you now know all the alterations and you just keep repping it over and over and over. And the analogy that he made is, the Bruce Lee conversation of, I do not fear a man who practices 10,000 kicks once. I fear a man who practices 1 kick 10,000 times. And by installing in 3 days and then just doing it over and over and over again, you're giving all of the players more reps in what they're going to do. And to some level, you're going to simplify what it is that you're going to run, but also giving the ability to get the ball to the players. And again, as I've said, and as you guys know, Miami has loads of talent at the skill positions. So hopefully RHETT LASHLEE is able to unlock something that has unfortunately been locked by design and intent for a while with the Miami Hurricanes offense. Obviously, you cannot assume that the growth is going to be from the bottom of the barrel to the very cream of the crop. But again, even if you go from the 130th in third downs, 120th in red zone scoring, if you take that up to 60s on both of those, that's such enormous growth that I think that things are going to be a lot better. But again, I'm to the point where you have to show and prove before I believe everything. But I think that there is now a synergy between the talent on the roster and the usage and implementation through the scheme of offensive football, which should help lead Miami in a positive direction, which on offense has not been the case very often recently.
Got Cam Underwood on the line to talk Miami football each and every week. Lock into the notifications as we scramble to find a time each and every week. So it's Friday night this week. Who knows what we'll put together next week. But again, just get the notifications if you subscribe to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. And as Cam mentions, he's got a daily podcast, Lock on Canes. Locked on Canes, correct? We can find that on the major various platforms? Major,
minor, any of all the above. So anywhere that you find your podcast, Locked on Canes. During the season, 5 days a week. In the off season, we're about 2 or 3 days. Me and my boy Fred Purdue do that one. So I had a good conversation about RHETT LASHLEE and engaging the offense and things like that today, again, with Coach Mackey. So definitely listen to that one. In the State of the U, we have a bunch of stuff. Justin DeTavio, my guy, he wrote a nice breakdown of the RHETT LASHLEE offense and some different kind of schemes and concepts that you can see both on the run and the pass. So we try to give it to you as much as possible in many places. So yeah, and it's all free. No Patreon, no subscription. I mean, just high-level content for free 99. So please, please, please like, subscribe, give us 5 stars, all those kind of things, and everywhere that you might find me. Appreciate it.
So many offensive coordinators out there. So many teams propose to do the high-tempo, run a ton of plays, keep the defense on its heels, snap the football before they're ready, not allow them to align. Of course, there's a rule that allows them to get their personnel changed, but that is basically outside of a handful of schools across the country. The proposed intent of almost everybody now in 2019, now 2020, but so few are truly effective at it. And of course, there's a talent gap across the country that has a lot to do with it. but it appears as though that some offensive coordinators, some offensive gurus have a number of intricacies to this approach to offense that that somehow gives them a bit of an advantage, or they just run it more efficiently. Can we put our finger on what those tendencies are from those particular guys that are able to run it so effectively year after year, as opposed to all these teams out there that say, this is what we do, this is what we want to do, and they talk about it, but it just doesn't come to fruition?
I mean, actions speak louder than words, and it's really just about numbers. If you have more people in the box, then the ball's going to go to the outside, whether it's a pass or a run. If you spread the field wide and then you only have 5, maybe 6 guys in the box, 5 in the box with a safety over the top, that's going to be a run. And if you block it well and, you execute things, then you're going to be successful with it. So, you put yourself in better situations, you try to find mismatches and things like that. So, I mean, I really think that that's where it is, and it can be death by 1,000 paper cuts, but also when you're averaging 5 and 7 yards a play and running 60 plays and a half, like SMU did a couple times this past year with RHETT LASHLEE as their offensive coordinator, it's really just, and it can be the thing from the water boy, like, who's my mark? I'm not going to use the word that they use in the movie, but it's like, okay, who's the guy we're going to pick on? Who, if it's the outside linebacker and he has a tendency to try to crash down on the run in the RPO, then we're going to isolate him and make him make a choice. And then we're going to react to that, because you should always have the last say as offense. You can dictate, where things go and then react to what the defense does and have the right answer. And yeah, just some guys have a feel for it and a flow for it, and you coach it well, and the guys execute what you ask them to do, and they just get it done. So putting players where and the thing is, you can get lost by looking at all 22 players on the field. And Roman, in one of his video breakdowns, it was really great. I had dinner with him yesterday, and I spoke to him in person about this. Even with 22 players on the field, and he's looking at, okay, where's the quarterback's read? What is the quarterback responsible for? How's the quarterback manipulating this play? And the quarterback literally watched the middle linebacker. He had a tunnel screen on this side, and you had a bubble screen on the other side. Depending on which way the middle linebacker went, that was where the ball was going to go. So you can see the linemen, they're doing their thing. Obviously, they're blocking. The running back, where's that middle backer going? Is he going to his left? Cool, then I'm throwing the tunnel. Is he going to his right? Cool, then I'm throwing the bubble. The end. So you can simplify the way that the reads for individual players. And it is a symphony of football, because everybody might only have 1 or 2 reads or 1 or 2 things, but it doesn't have to all come together. But things like that, when you instead of having a pro style system where, under Dan Enos, the quarterbacks are dropping back and I'm reading this and I'm reading high to low and I'm going here and I'm doing all these things. And it looks like, the Zach Galifianakis from the Hangover, where's all the things coming in front of him, or the Hangover Part 2, you know what I mean? When he's in the casino just looking at it, and it's just like all that. Nah, I'm reading this guy on this play, and which way he goes tells me where I'm going with the football. Doesn't that sound easy? Doesn't that sound something like you or I, or somebody who's not as intellectually advanced at football, could do? Look at one dude and go with the ball opposite of where he goes. These are things that you can do to be advantageous, or put your quarterbacks or players in advantageous situations. Same things when you have options or option routes. Like if you know the air raid scheme made famous by Mike Leach, he runs the play 4 verticals. He calls it 6 because when you call it, they're options, so it should always be a touchdown. That means, if the middle field is open or closed, you can do different things. If you run it from a trip set, if you run it from 2x2, there's contingencies built for every player or every receiver, depending on what their defender shows them. But for that receiver, you might only have 2 options. If he sits here, I do this. If he do, then I do that. So but if you have 4 receivers, then you got 8 options out there, maybe. You know what I mean? So it's not like they have the entire playbook or the entire route tree where it's like, oh, I can just pick one like it's recess in 5th grade. Oh, get open, and I'm just gonna do whatever. I'm gonna do this or I'm gonna do that. And again, it when you have a lot of players, you have 11 on each side, and people are doing things. Yes, it can become multiple in the reads that are out there. But if I'm reading the Z receiver on this side, I'm not concerned with the X or the Y or the H or anything else and what they're doing. And because their options are active, but if I'm not looking there because I see that this is my mark and I see this is where I'm going with the football, I need to read that option right there. Which way are they going? Are they going this or are they doing that? And then I give him the ball. And I've still made it a single read situation. Now, obviously, things can break down. You might need to make multiple reads. Hey, there might be a defender in your face all of a sudden because somebody didn't make a block and you got to improvise and run. I mean, yeah, it's not going to be perfect. And that's the thing. I think that we as fans always have the expectation of perfection. And I think that the pursuit of perfection is what we should be endeavoring to do. But it's not always going to be perfect. But if you can make it easier, make it more player friendly, I think that it could really hit here because the talent that's at Miami is not very different than the talent that's at LSU or at Georgia or Alabama or many of these places because they have over 50% of the roster as blue chips, and so does Miami. And especially at the skill positions, wide receiver, tight end, and running back, the talent on Miami's roster is analogous to any of those. Where it really falls off is on the offensive and defensive lines. That's where the difference is really between Miami and those top championship teams. But the skill position players, Miami got loads of them, and they can run and they can put points on the scoreboard. And if you put them in a good situation, RHETT Lashlee, then I think that can happen.
Miami Hurricanes Live. This is our 41st edition here on a Friday night at 8 o'clock. So we appreciate you staying up with the notifications as we talk Miami football with Cam Utterwood from State at the U. And, of course, the hiring of RHETT Lashlee as offensive coordinator, the big news this week. Bring your comments, your questions, and I will post them and pass them on to Cam. So it's astounding what you mentioned a few minutes ago regarding the third down efficiency or lack thereof and the red zone efficiency or lack thereof, because this team has basically scored in the 60s in regards to offensive just points on the scoreboard of the 129 or 130 FBS teams of the last few years. That the offense has generated anything and just about everything on big plays. It's been hit or miss. The consistency and continuity in the offense has been almost non-existent. It's been a couple handfuls of big plays that have put points on the scoreboard. But if you and you need that to be a prolific offense. You still need the big plays. You need those, but to be able to maintain drives and move the sticks and convert, just as you mentioned, not even at a high rate. If you could just be mediocre at it this year, coming up in 2020, with everything else that the team has brought to the table in regards to the big play, you're scoring 12 to 15 points more per game, probably.
I mean, hopefully, even more. Miami scored 25? Yeah, 25. Okay, I mean, yeah, 15 points more is 40. So, I mean, that's a lot. But hey, why not? Why not put up big crooked numbers? You know what I mean? Hurricane Lloyd, appreciate that. But like, yeah, there has to be, and we've been beating our head against a wall. It has been really, the big plays have been singular efforts. It's really just been a guy who is more talented than the guy across from him making a play. If you think back to Amon Richards, if you think to KJ Osborne in the Pittsburgh game, you think to DJ Dallas on those long touchdown runs he had this year, you think to Brevin Jordan, you think to a few other guys in recent past. It's really just been, we have NFL type talent because Miami does. And those guys go and make a play 1-on-1 or 1-on-2 or 1-on-3 because they're those dudes, and you're able to hit a long play because they have that ability. But yeah, it's been a grind for a while to put points on the scoreboard. So, yeah.
Got a question here from Tony Kidd. Can you ask Cam, does he think the Alonzo Highsmith situation is 100% completely over regarding him returning to the U?
I say yes until it's not. I trust people at their word. Alonzo Highsmith told Barry Jackson from the Miami Herald that he was not going to take a job at Miami, or the window for him taking a position in the athletic department had closed, and that was not going to happen. Then it was multiply reported by Kane Sport, also Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald today, that Alonzo Highsmith had a meeting with Blake James, the athletic director, today. That's as far as it goes, that they did meet, and it's been confirmed. But I mean, at this point, I trust Alonzo at his word that the window is closed. And the thing is, it comes down to what you want the structure of the athletic department to be. If you want someone who is on par with the athletic director, that's not going to happen. You're not going to have co-ADs. And Blake James is going to push back on that. If you wanted to have the chief of staff be an assistant AD, there's a person who works in the athletic department who people have been bashing for a long time. I'm not going to put their name out there, but as an administrator over football or something like that, that's an option. Like I said, somebody does have that job. So are you creating another job at that senior AD or associate AD level and then moving that person's responsibility off of football, or moving that responsibility from that person and leaving the other responsibilities with that person? I don't know. And if you're one of those people at the associate AD level, I'm pushing back on that. If you have that juice, Manny Diaz is pushing back on that because the structure of the athletic department now is his boss is the athletic director with no middle manager. But you want to put a middle manager in there now? No, as head coach, I'm going to push back on that because I don't want that. You know what I mean? And you're not going to have, and the other option would be to have Alonzo Highsmith with a position on staff that is under the supervision of the head coach, so that he could work in Miami, but then he answers to Manny Diaz about things. Because again, Manny Diaz is not going to be there for accepting of a peer level or superior level person. So then you're going to put Alonzo Highsmith in a direct report position where he reports to Manny Diaz. Is that something that he's going to, who a longtime NFL executive is going to come and then do that and then have to answer to a college coach that's, not Nick Saban or anything, you know what I mean? So there's negatives on every side. You can see positives, like Alonzo Highsmith is a talent evaluator par excellence, and has been for many, many years. He knows the structure of of many winning organizations, and, could impact the University of Miami athletic department and football program to go in a positive direction there. You can make the case on either side. I'm just going to take him at his word that the window is closed, and that's it until it's not.
So I remind everyone out there that not Alonzo Highsmith, but that would be Cam Underwood, has a ton of stuff going on each and every week, other obligations, and gives us an hour each week. So the Super Chat is on, one way in which you can show some appreciation for what Cam does here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, and that we talk Miami football several times a week with Cam, and certainly some viewpoint and perspective from myself, and talk the rest of the ACC and college football each and every day. There were several comments in the live chat concerning why would LASHLEE be any better than Enos. I posted the comment by Devontre, new offensive coordinator, sounds just like another Enos. Is there anything, of course, you put an exclamation mark on your dissertation on the hiring by saying, I got to see it. We all have to see it.
Absolutely. So
regardless of what Cam has to say, we all have to see it. At the same time, is there anything that you can go to tangibly in Enos's past versus LASHLEE's past, or any differences in concepts or anything that you've gathered from your previous conversations, and again, the podcast that you produce, and your homework, that would make any kind of distinction that could be tangible at this point?
I mean, just go look at the offenses that were run. I mean, look at what he did at Auburn. Look at what happened at SMU. Look at what happened at UConn. Just look at what was done. It's different. Dan Enos is a more plodding, pro style kind of offense. Had one good year at Arkansas, with very, very good talent. And then it fell off after that because again, like you saw at Miami, like this past season, if you are not beating people up at the line of scrimmage, if you're not bigger, badder, and stronger, then you can't run that kind of system. That's why Alabama could do it and can do it on defense, just because they're bigger, faster, and stronger than you, pretty much. You know what I mean? But Rhett Lashlee's offenses they've played at pace. They've put up yards, they've put up points, and they've done it in a run and a pass heavy kind of a way with different coaches over the course of time. So to me, go look at the resume, go look at the film, go watch. And look, there's people who are more knowledgeable than I, even at football, not even, but there are people who are more knowledgeable than I who have said this in an even more eloquent way. If you look at Coach Mackey, if you look at Roman Kane, if you look at Justin DeTavio on State of the U, read those things, those breakdowns there. I was actually going back and looking at some Mike Leach air raid stuff. If you go to cougcenter.com, that is our SB Nation Washington State partner blog. If you go there and look up the air raid playbook, they went and they broke down 3 of the staples, which are mesh, Y cross, and or 6, which is 4 verticals, and other things. They've been putting stuff in that story stream or in that tag for years, and I'm going to go read all of it, and it's really well done. You go to smartfootball.com and read all about the spread offense and things like that. Chris B. Brown, he has 2 books on it, or on football, called Smart Football and the Art of Smart Football. I'm halfway through the second one. I've already read the first one. He breaks things down in a really great way, and he knows X's and O's inside out, upside down, backwards, and forwards as well. I've given you 5 or 6 different places where you can go and hear not only about the spread offense, but in many of those places, specifically about Rhett Lashlee and the offenses that he's run. It's for those reasons that I think similar type things are possible at Miami. I need to see it come to fruition, but we are endeavoring to do something in a different way with Rhett Lashlee, with, again, spreading the field. So you're going to have to really defend all 53 1/3 yards from sideline to sideline, and also have the ability to throw it short and let a guy run long, or if you want to cheat short, we'll throw it over your head.
So you also made a comment, Cam, concerning getting excited about the offensive skill position.
I'm sorry, guys. I got to blow my nose. I'll be right back.
Sure. Go to it. So what I'm going to tee up here for Cam is that there was a comment that he made in the last set of comments that he made about the Lashlee offense concerning the Miami skill position players and the talent, the skill, the ability there. And I would love to be able to do a breakdown that would take the Miami skill position talent on offense, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and then, so where I'm going here, Cam, is that you had made a comment in regards to talking about, wow, if we could truly play the type of pace, space that I want to play and put it together with our skill position talent, because the difference in recruiting rankings and the talent that we have on our roster is not at the skill position players between us and the elite programs currently in college football.
Mm-hmm.
So if we took the best offenses in college football, LSU, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Alabama, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Really, would the Miami running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers be generally in that same tier based on, I don't know if you're basing this strictly on eye test or just strictly on recruiting rankings or some combination?
Combination of both, but
Okay.
yes. I mean, if you're talking about tight end, Brevin Jordan is the best tight end in America. He'll play anywhere. You have guys like Jeff Thomas, could have played anywhere. I mean, in some kind of role. Mark Pope has talent. He needs to now turn that talent potential into performance, but he was everybody's All-American coming out of high school. You got Michael Redding III coming in this class, who's 6'2", 195, rocked up and very physical as an X receiver. Daz Worsham set records in high school, and he's finally getting back to 100% after hip surgery as a junior. Everybody in America wanted him. He was committed to Alabama for a time. You know, you have Cam Harris. You have Donald Chaney Jr., you have Jalen Knighton. All of those guys chose Miami over big-time offers from all over the power conferences and things like that. Absolutely, 100%. Absolutely. So, I mean, I just named 7 guys right there who could pretty much play anywhere. Yeah. Yeah. Will Mallory, he could be a rotation tight end at pretty much any school. You know what I mean? Like, there are guys with talent, absolutely 100%. And this is evidenced by the fact that if and when any of them want to leave, then people snap them up quickly. Case in point, Lorenzo Lingard decides that he wants to transfer. He goes to Florida, said he'd been dreaming about Florida for 3 months. He put his name in the transfer portal, and he was accepted to Florida, and they put out the official release. Well, the Twitter, edit or whatever, but they put that up within 5 days. Florida is a power team, a Power 5 conference team. They're an upper echelon team in the SEC East. They're going to be first or second in that division, probably every year. They recruit well. They unfortunately beat us this year, whatever. They won 10 games. That's not a who kind of team. You know what I mean? It's not who's their coach, or where's that? Or I think I've heard of them before. No, that's a name brand. And as soon as anybody wants to leave from Miami, name brand teams pop up all over the place. Now, is it everybody at those positions? No, it's not. And that's where the depth comes in. But I mean, I would say 60% of the skill position players absolutely could play with and on any of those teams, 100%.
So it's offensive line, it's defensive line, and what do you say about secondary as well in recent years?
Secondary safety better than cornerback. That's where the talent lies, I think, on the inside, not the outside. And I think that's been evidenced by what we've seen in the play this year. You got NFL players at safety. Gervin Hall, he's going to be an NFL player. Bubba Bolden's going to be an NFL player. Amari Carter, whether it's at safety or maybe adding some weight going to outside linebacker, but that's an NFL player. Keontre Smith should be an NFL player. Like you have tons of talent at safety, more than at cornerback. But yeah, I mean, there is talent. But my point with that was, when you have that kind of a talent, you should be able to give them space and let them cook in this offense with pace and space, one-on-one battles. And look, it should be like a recruiting camp. It should be like a 7-on-7, and that's the thing that I said about Sam Howell. Look, they designed plays for him. Those deep shots, those were all just recruiting camp throws. That was a one-on-one on the outside. My receiver needs to win the route, and I'm going to chuck it up there. And at all these camps and all these places, nobody really runs slants. They don't run digs. They don't run curls, because they want to get past the guy and not beat them with a route that's like technically proficient. They blur over the top, and I'm in the end zone and I'm throwing the ball in your face if I'm from South Florida and I'm talking shit to you because, I got past you. I got the end zone. Eat that. That's what everybody wants to do. But I would say, and I haven't done this, I would honestly say go back and look at every one of Sam Howell's touchdown passes. I would say probably 70% of them are those one-on-one recruiting camps, 7-on-7 throws where it's one-on-one, guy wins, and I just chuck it. Miami has comparable, if not better, talent on the outside than North Carolina. Why can we not do the same thing? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Although North Carolina has pretty good talent on the outside. I was prepping for their 2020 season with Daz Newsome and De'Ami Brown and those guys, the other kid as well. They're 3 deep at wide receiver, and all those skill guys are coming back. That should be an interesting race in the Coastal again.
And I'm not even saying that they're, bad. I'm not saying, they're crap. But like, Miami has comparable or better.
Sure.
And if it's comparable and they're really good, hey. If it's better and they're really good or above average, hey, I'm with it. But I mean, it's not like we have, back in the day when Mark Richt got here and he openly said, we need speed at wide receiver because we have no speed. We cannot simulate what anybody's going to offer us on the opposition because we don't have that kind of speed at wide receiver. Those days are past. Those days are well in the rear view mirror. So like, why, if they're able to then, with comparable talent, no matter how you want to qualify it, but it's at least comparable. Why then can we not have our talent that is comparable perform to a comparable level?
Sam Howell threw 38 touchdown passes this year. If Miami would have thrown 38 touchdown passes this year,
how many did Miami throw? How many did Miami throw?
I'm guessing that through, I think, if I remember right, Perry was at like 8 and Jaron Williams at 11 or 12,
Way
something
more
like
than
that,
that.
about 20,
No,
something in that range.
Jaron was at 19. So
Oh,
that's
that's right.
27.
19 and 6, right?
19 and 8.
6, 19 and 8.
Yeah. So we threw 27 touchdowns this
Oh,
year.
okay.
It's not like,
27.
I mean, the majority of the touchdowns did come through the air as I'm looking up. If you look at rushing, click. I mean, yeah, well, it was 50-50. Well, I'm sorry. That went
And
way
Nkosi
back.
was 8 and 2 going into the bowl game, I think. Touchdown to interception ratio, if I
Right.
remember correctly.
We had 27 passing touchdowns and 16 rushing touchdowns. So, like, we threw the ball and put it in the end zone. So, I mean, yeah, Sam Howell had a huge number of touchdowns. But, I mean, it's not like it was 15 to 38. Like, 27 is a lot of touchdowns, bro. So, like, it's, again, but still, yeah, it's not as much. So I would like it to be more comparable. But like, you're still finding ways to find the end zone through the air. Like it's. I mean, when you have a quarterback that goes aggregate like 27 and 9 between the two of them, that's nothing to shake a stick at. I mean, like if you have a single player who went 27 and 9, as I click quickly to try to find that.
Although Cam, I would say, Cam, that we need to guard against our traditional thinking of what football numbers should look like for a quarterback.
I mean, Brock Purdy went 27 and 9 from Iowa State. Literally,
because these kids are throwing out some pretty amazing touchdown to interception ratios today versus even 5 to 10 years ago.
Right, but I mean,
kids are getting. Justin Fields was 41-3 this year.
Correct, absolutely. But
I'm going high end.
Brock Purdy was 27 and 9, which is 23rd.
Yeah.
If you had a little bit better performance, then you could have easily been in the 29 and 7, which is Dylan Gabriel. 30 and 7, Tanner Morgan from Minnesota. You go a little bit higher, Justin Herbert 32 and 6. If the performance was marginally better than what we saw.
So this brings to mind what Birmingham Kane is alluding to, and other people in the live chat. So if the offense takes the shape that you and others would like it to, this probably gives the quarterback less responsibility in decision making, or it makes the direction of the decision, the process, easier. But are you comfortable with the guys that are in play? I know that you are and were from a talent standpoint originally, but having gone through another season with Nkosi Perry and then Jaron Williams for the first time in 2019, are you comfortable with those guys running the type of offense that you foresee?
I am. Again, like I'm personal friends with him, so I'm going to say it. Roman Kane, he wrote a thing and he said it on his own podcast that released today that, this is on paper, on film, this is an offense that really fits what Nkosi Perry does well. This is the kind of offense that he ran in high school and set records with at Ocala Vanguard, shattered records that were set by Dante Culpepper when he was a prep quarterback. And it doesn't just have to be him. You can alter the offense for whatever kind of quarterback you have. You have one that runs more like Nick Marshall in 2013, then you run him to death. Run some inverted veer. You add quarterback run in there. If you have a Cam Newton, 6'6", 250, you're going to run quarterback power because he's going to run people over because he's a mountain of a man. If you have a guy like Shane Buechele who's not going to run, then you take out a lot of that stuff and you scheme it to get to other players. So instead of giving the rush yards to the quarterback, you're giving them to the running back at SMU. You had 5,000. Wait, like, no, that was LSU stat I was about to say. But, you have 4,000-yard passer, one or two maybe wide receivers that get 1,000 yards, a running back that's at 14 or 1,500 rushing yards. You can do that. But to the point of the question, do I think that we have guys who can perform in the scheme? Absolutely. Do we have a ready-made answer? No. And so I would not necessarily begrudge Lashlee going out to the portal to get somebody for more competition to try to get a quarterback to run the system that he wants to run. Now, I will say my pushback on that is if you bring somebody in and pretty much guarantee him to start, then you're going scorched earth on the quarterback room. That means Tate Martell gone, Nkosi Perry gone, Jaron Williams gone. That means you got your transfer, you got Tyler Van Dyke, and then Peyton Matoka, who's a program player who really should not be seeing meaningful snaps here. That also means, again, recruiting rule number one is what, guys? You have to have a quarterback every single year. But that means that the quarterback that you get in 2021 has to really be a high upper echelon guy, because you're probably going to need that guy to be your backup quarterback as a true freshman. You know what I mean? So if you go and get a guy for a year, it is the nuclear option. That is scorched earth on the quarterback room. I'm hesitant to go there with it. I understand, again, it's just like the Alonzo Highsmith thing. I understand the viewpoint from multiple sides. Me, myself, personally, I would let the 5 quarterbacks that we have, N'Kosi Perry, Jaron Williams, Tate Martell, Tyler Van Dyke, who enrolls on Monday or Tuesday, and Peyton Matoka, I let those 5 battle it out, and whoever wins, wins. You know, Perry, Martell, and Matoka all ran pure spreads in high school. Van Dyke ran pro style as a junior, spread as a senior, and went undefeated and won a state championship. Jaron Williams is the more pro style of the 5, but you know, he started the majority of the year, and you know, he can spin it. You know, he can still throw the ball. So he's a guy who has talent as well. Let it go where it may. Whoever wins, wins. Whoever steps out, steps out. Because I don't think that all 5 will actually make it to the fall. And that's fine. But I personally, for me, Cam, that is the more reasonable option than going and getting a transfer and going scorched earth. Because, again, that's my viewpoint, that if you bring somebody in, then you're going to lose 2, if not 3, of the top 3 in the quarterback room who are returning.
Talking Miami football with Cam Underwood from State of the U. Check him out right there, and also on his podcast that comes to you each and every day. Daily podcast. Wow, that's a lot of work, Cam.
Only during the season. And it's only about half hour to 40 minutes. So I just get on here and do this. You know, Fred and I get together and pick a time when we can record. You know, he does what I used to do. He's a school teacher. So, you know, that afternoon time slot and everything. So yeah, just do that and discuss some stuff for the day. And he's good to come up with lots of hypothetical situations. He's like you know, he does his prep and he comes up with scenarios and things. And then we discuss those. So, I mean, it is a little bit of work, but well, we make it happen.
Beast Mode, if I read your comment correctly, and I didn't want to leave it on the screen for too long because we need to get to other comments, I don't think you need to fear that Miami is playing Michigan State, App State, and Alabama next year. You may want to check the 2020 schedule. They don't play all of them next year.
That's 2021, I believe, that we have. I think we have all 3.
All 3 of them the following year. Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
That's pretty rugged.
In 20, yes. Yeah, okay. No, that is correct.
2 years. All right.
In 2 years, we open in Atlanta with Alabama, come home to App State, and then Michigan State, back to back to back to start the year in 2021. This year, the non-conference is Temple, Wagner, UAB, and then at Michigan State. And of course, I'm going to have to go home to the Mitten and then drive over to EL to go see that. So yeah. That's Eastland. That's Michigander for Eastland.
I know it was up there.
I know you do, but people are like,
but I know a lot of it. The Michigan State game's on the road in 2020, correct?
This season, yes, in 2020. Yeah. Yep.
So
that'll be the first time that
they make the return trip.
Huh?
They make the return trip in 2021.
In 21, yeah. So it's back-to-back years for that. This will be the first time. Yeah, it'll be the first time that I will have returned to Spartan Stadium since Michigan State in '97. That's the one with Charles Woodson making that insane interception on the sideline when he yeah, that one. If you're like, oh, yeah, no, I was there for that one, wearing my maize and blue because, yeah, you know, that's what we do. Where at least my family. But yeah, I was there for that. So this is going to be the first time that I'll be back there ever since that fateful Saturday. And hey, maybe a Miami Hurricane will make a similarly amazing play to that iconic interception from Charles Woodson.
Similar to the catch that Lynn Swan made along the sideline against the Dallas Cowboys in the Super Bowl, similar to Dr. J under the backboard against the LA Lakers in the finals, where he like scoops it in, and where an athlete is just so amazing that for a split second they not only defy gravity but geography or geometry in regards to, like, they look like they leaped out of bounds and then were able to somehow move themselves back in and land inbounds again.
It's just one of those things where it's just like, elite level athletes are different. It looks like a video game. It looks like, I mean, they are a superhero. I mean, I remember, Jeff Smoker was rolling to his right. I'm like, okay, whatever. He's going to throw it away. And Charles Woodson, he just goes and he just kept going. And I was like, he's not, and like the whole stadium, you just like, it was that instant reaction. And then I ran home. It was like the 2 a.m. replaying of that. And like I recorded it on VCR back then because, that kind of old, so that I could have it, so I could watch it, all the time. And go look it up on YouTube, bro. Like, it's that interception at Michigan State Charles Woodson had. I mean, it's stupid. It is ridiculous. So yeah, that was the last time I was at Spartan Stadium, one of the underrated stadiums that I've been to. But I am going to do my best to be back there this September 26th when the Miami Hurricanes make their way north.
Cam, you slid in a comment during your latest rundown of this offense and what it could look like in 7-on-7.
Yeah.
Does this offense de-emphasize the offensive line, which I many times consider to be the most important unit on the field, but does it mask to a certain extent a poor offensive line?
Yes, absolutely. Because you're going to spread teams out. So the way that they're able to disguise blitzes are going to be limited by alignment, because if they're not taking these backers or these stars or strikers or whatever, they're not walking them out, then that's an easy throw. It should be, from that FIU game where we're talking about Mike Harley being uncovered on that play on the goal line, where still nobody has found him. And I hope that they went to Marlins Park this evening and opened the doors and let him out, because nobody has realized that he was uncovered. Hopefully when you have it spread, then you can see that. And then you have less guys to block. So now you're going man-to-man and you're blocking. You have clear assignments even on your zone blocking and things like that. And you can operate with them. I mean, the offensive line doing their job, but not being central to what you're doing. They become background singers. They don't become, leads anymore. And that will help them. When you get the ball out of the quarterback's hand quick, you're not having them, the quarterback hold the ball a long time and do that hard back to the defense play action that takes time to develop. And now I, as offensive lineman, need to block for 4 and 5 seconds. And that's hard to do, even when you have a really good offensive line. Miami didn't have a really good offensive line, so why are we trying to ask them to do that? So, you can find ways to de-emphasize the importance of the offensive line. You can find ways to scheme around them to put them in situations, again, even the big guys, in situations to be successful. If we're going to go and we're going to cut block on one play, hopefully you can be successful with that. If we're going to, down block and, if we're going to run power or whatever. So down block, you wrap around a guard, boom, whatever. But when you only have 6 guys in the box, you know what I mean? Now, if you have a quarterback run element, hopefully that linebacker is at least halfway looking at that quarterback. So now you got 5 hats on the 5 hats. And then a guy who, whoever it is, quarterback or running back, you make him miss in the hole and all of a sudden you're running. There's a play that I forget who it was that put it up, but Memphis they did beat SMU by a couple touchdowns. They were a better team, but there was a run. I remember the score. It was Memphis 54, SMU 32, and they ran power. So they down blocked, they wrapped the left guard through the hole, and then the running back followed through. And the safety came down. He was like, cool, I'm the last line of defense. And that running back lowered his shoulder and ran over him like it was me running over a 6-year-old. You know what I mean? Just truck. And then, whoop, gone, because there's nobody else home. So you let the offensive lineman, and I mean, look, at some point you got to love blocking. Obviously, you're a scholarship offensive lineman. So if I'm that left guard and I get to come through and I get to see a linebacker who I'm bigger than, smack. And then if I hear those pads crunch, and then that running back is still running, and I get up from my block because I already done pancaked my guy, and I get up and I see the back of somebody's jersey way down there, choo-choo, let's go. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it should hopefully help them. And again, if you're in the other thing, so, okay, less narrative, more quality or quantitative. If you're in shorter third downs, that should hopefully be successful because then you're not reacting, you're acting. I'm choosing what I'm doing to try to convert that, things of that nature. Again, you're getting the ball out quicker. So tangibly, they have to block for a shorter amount of time. There are definitely things in this offense that will help the offensive line be better by not leaning on them to do things that they're not equipped to do, like block for a long time or block lots of people or identify out of 8 people who's coming where, because we saw multiple times this year, even with 5 and 6 rushers, that wasn't able to be happening. Or that was not able to happen, excuse me.
With close to 200 on the line, I apologize. I couldn't get to all the comments and questions on the live chat, but we appreciate it. We hope to get together with Cam sometime again next week, of course, here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, for our weekly Miami show with Cam. Again, Cam can be found on Locked On Canes daily podcast.
Not daily right now, but it's about twice a week. So yeah, we're doing that.
I was listening. Yes.
Yeah. So do that. Follow there. I'm on Twitter at Underwood Sports. State of the U account is The State of the U. We're State of the U. The State of the U on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Obviously, the website is stateoftheu.com, which I hope that you guys are still following. I know that my personal content creation has been a little bit lower recently just because of the new secret day job, but I'm actually looking at 2 tabs that I'm working on something special for you guys soon. We have the State of the U Awards that just started with Gabby Rudia writing about the worst game of the year, the FIU loss, because spoiler alert, Gabby goes to FIU, but he roots for Miami and he writes for our website. So he obviously wanted to be the one to talk about that. And we have a bunch of things coming up, most improved player of the year on offense and defense, things of that nature. So yeah, State of the U Awards, we have the season or the position recaps coming up, even more. Baseball's getting kicked up, basketball, women's basketball. We, try to cover all of that. So, rock with me in all those places. Appreciate it. And, thank you for coming over here as well. Be sure that you like the video before you leave. And if you're listening to the podcast later, be sure that you check us out, and we'll see you the next time.
If you'd like to get prepped for the national championship game, we've got tons of videos already posted, more to come, plus a live stream on Sunday night and Monday afternoon with Clemson and LSU contributors. All right, Cam, we appreciate you stopping by as always and making this show what it is.
And no problem. You guys have a good Friday night. We'll see you soon.